watching you. They're watching you.
So there was an interview last week that made a lot of people stop and say,
"What the f is wrong with you?"
It involved two people who have each had or have active legal charges against Chris Hansen in 2020. One being Onision and the other being Francis Nicotra. A New Jersey-based divorce lawyer, perhaps best known for being the sister of former acclaimed web producer,
so-called web producer,
for Chris Hansen, Vince Nicotra.
All right, so I'm here with Franny Law.
Shut up, Greg.
Vincent used to work with me on my web projects until I had to let him go because of things he said and did I could not condone. Vincent became angry. He hijacked a website with my name and image, used it to harass me and others. Then he apparently sold it to his sister, the lawyer, Francis Nicotra.
So when I watched this boring, sometimes incoherent interview about online bullying and responsibility, I noticed there was no mention made about Vince and his actions, but Francis was sure to mention this.
I just love Cher.
And this.
I have nothing to do with his gripes.
So after spending all day posting nudes of himself on his panel, the YouTube psycho brat from Washington State, who's under investigation by the FBI and Pierce County Sheriff's Department, does an interview with a lawyer to help launch the lawyer's YouTube career. You just can't make it up.
I knew I needed to make a reaction video. Did she forget the timeline? Because I didn't. She filed charges claiming she was harassed by Chris Hansen in an incident that occurred on February 5th. 8 days later, on February 13th, she quote-unquote won the HansenVSPredators.com domain name with a winning bid of $10,000. Here is Vince proudly tweeting about it. Look at how proud he is to sell a website he doesn't own for money she didn't actually pay him. Those negative reviews she is blaming on Chris Hansen, I tweeted about them 9 days after her ghost purchase of the domain name when Vince swooped into the rescue with not one, but 3 5-star reviews for his sister. Chris Hansen didn't mention her for another 2 weeks when he posted a video about the charges on March 6th.
Let me be very clear. It is nonsense.
That timeline just doesn't make any sense. How can Chris be responsible for something that happened weeks before he even mentioned her name? Francis, didn't your brother tell you? I stack receipts like George Costanza.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
And now, your boy, WesMoast.
Let's pick up right at the start of the interview. I told myself I wasn't going to pause the video until I found something I outright did not agree with, and I made it a whole 25 seconds in.
Today we wanted to talk about online culture and how people are impacted by social media and so forth. And your mission is generally to help people who are going through a lot of stresses in the legal field, and you generally want to be of service to the general public. Is that true?
Yes, that is my profession, is to be of service and to help people through difficult times in their lives. We're launching our YouTube channel, and it should be a little fun, and hopefully we hope to get a smile from people, entertain them a little bit.
I guess making a video with the person who is engaged in a very public feud with Chris Hansen is not going to make a lot of people happy. Vince now claims that she didn't know who Onision was prior to the interview, and I have to say that sounds about as likely as the 1,500 times Vince has been hacked, mirrored, monitored, or somehow had his phone infiltrated in the last 12 months. I only hope Frances puts more detail and care into her law practice than she does preparing for an interview, but judging by this broken English on her website that I've been pointing out since February, I'm just gonna say, nah. I don't think you need a legal advice. You need a WordPress developer. This is a 2-second fix and will cost you $5. Speaking of $5, this video is brought to you by Fiverr.com. On Fiverr.com, you can get everything from jingle singers to voiceovers.
Number 1. Vince is allergic to the truth.
To puppet rappers.
My name is Come Heavy.
Starting at just $5. Okay, they didn't sponsor shit, but still, get this shit fixed. It will cost $5. I guarantee you are losing business because of this. You're a law firm, not the flea market Montgomery.
Montgomery, it's just like a mini mall.
How do you feel about private lives affected by modern culture and social media? What do you think is a good way to deal with the online community as is, primarily in making sure that you keep a sound mind and you're able to focus on your own rights and what's best for yourself?
Online culture right now, or what I've found to be called cancel culture, that is very dangerous and has a way, it could really have a chilling effect on the ability of somebody to perform their work.
So I wonder what she calls it when her brother doxes, threatens, and harasses people and tries getting them fired from their job. During his epic career-ending rant on New Year's Eve, Vince doxed me on Twitter and YouTube because we exposed his shady website launch. He called YouTuber Yap Yap and I alleged hackers and threatened to post the same thing on LinkedIn and Twitter. He called me salty and dangerous several times, a term I like so much I had my Fiverr jingle singer turn it into a theme song. He was trying to preemptively cancel me and another user because we were critical of his work, his professionalism, and his design skills. These design skills. I rest my case. He said a lot of racist stuff too, but why nitpick, right? With Trolls World Tour proving to be a streaming success in this time of worldwide quarantine, I think Vince may be onto something with his new franchise, Trolls. We can have Trolls Part 1, Trolls 2 Electric Boogaloo, and of course, Trolls 3. Which took the last donut?
Which took the last donut?
That's wildly inappropriate.
But we can talk movie rights later. Let's talk some more about Frances and her feelings.
What do you think the general repercussions for damaging someone's private life could be? Like, as far as your legal understanding, what are the assortment of things that could happen to someone who tries to destroy someone's private life on social media?
Well, legally, you do have options. There's a possibility of suing for defamation.
It's unfortunate when you have people who say things about you that aren't true, who have zero net worth. Or is it more so that you would actually have the ability to claim future assets that they obtain through extended damage recovery? Is that a thing?
This is another question I was anxious to hear Frances answer. I have clear evidence of both slander and libel perpetrated by her brother. All of those claims of me being a hacker, the claims of me wanting a job and he wouldn't hire me so I was salty. He said and wrote them repeatedly rather than just admit he was lying. He did admit to it several months later, but by then he was largely ignored, his tweets were protected, and hardly anyone saw it. Other than trying to get Corey Feldman to hire him for an in-home security camera install.
All right, listen. I'm trusting you guys, okay? Don't make me do anything stupid.
Because, you know, who better to trust with their security than a guy who took over his former employer's websites and social media pages after termination? Whether he admits to it or not, his future employment opportunities will be forever impacted, especially in digital marketing, making the chances of me recouping any monetary award highly unlikely.
Do you think that there will be a legal shift where people are more protected against baseless cancel culture?
I do believe that there's going to be a shift. I say that because there will be lawyers entering this realm, and a lot of them. Lawyers litigate, and as long as the claim has some merit to it, they would absolutely be inspired to bring an action. Now, there's got to be some responsibility on behalf of these providers who provide the forum within which people can leave these negative comments and do. In my case, I didn't have a media presence, rather. I didn't have any media presence. I had an online presence. And
lighten up, Francis.
I was dragged into the digital media platform. I was really dragged into it. Everybody started posting these negative reviews.
This line is why I made the video. The continued insistence that she was somehow dragged into this and was an innocent bystander. Innocent bystanders are people like my family that Vince was reaching out to via social media, and yes, any member of Onision's family that was contacted who was in no way affiliated with his channel. What about when Repsion's family was doxxed, as well as the outing of Twitter user Oh It's Nicole a few months back after exchanging words with Vince? But as I pointed out in my timeline, Francis got involved the minute Vince was terminated. Several people reached out to him in an attempt to get an interview and were told to contact his lawyer and sister, Frances Nicotra. That is where the familial connection was made. I contacted her. We discussed the issues, the doxing, the sharing of my personal information, and instead of giving me legal advice, she just entered random words in sentence form until she had sent back a nonsensical response about it being a
time for reflection.
Of course, he is her brother, and I don't fault her at all for taking him on as a client. But if the point of representing him was just to ask people to stop talking about Vince, then I don't know what she expected.
Francis.
I read this, but what I hear is this.
Some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa.
The backlash against Francis didn't come until several weeks later with the previously mentioned auction for the illegally detained HansonvsPredators.com. I contacted her on Twitter the same day to get a comment, and I was blocked. While Vince Nicotra was congratulating Francis Nicotra on winning the domain name here on Twitter, it doesn't take a genius to recognize the familial connection here. When all traffic to HansonvsPredators.com was forwarding to her New Jersey-based divorce law firm, that gave people all the connection they needed. If she's going to be mad at anyone for those bad reviews, it should be Vince for getting her involved with whatever scheme he had worked up. I still think the craziest part of all this was that this auction bid was made 8 days after the alleged harassment incident Chris Hansen was charged with. There's a term for that. What is it?
You're what the French call les incompetents.
Yeah, that's it.
A lot of people initially wanted to interview me. Suddenly they didn't want interviews anymore because then they would be faced with maybe public examples being made of them on their own channels and so forth.
I really haven't had a whole lot to say about Onision during this because, as I've always made clear, I don't know anything about him. But if the allegations are true, he is garbage and deserves prison time. If not, then a whole lot of people owe him apologies. I do take exception to this line though, because I tried interviewing him at the courthouse in January, and he hid in the bathroom like DJ Tanner hid in the phone booth in that one episode of Full House where she was getting made fun of by the popular girls. And for whatever reason, this clearly grown man with a mustache. Stop being DJ Tanner, Onision. Everyone knows you're just an Uncle Joey.
Hi, it's me, Pee Wee Herman. Huh? Do you want to go to my playhouse?
So what I'm saying is with this behavior, it seems like if you're going to pretend to be a journalist or you're going to pretend to be a newspaper or whatever you think you are, you have to hold yourself to the same standard. How do you feel about that?
Well, you should. Everybody should. It's just you have to be careful what you say. What happened was my ratings, and they were very good, my ratings started going down, and some really inappropriate and really vile things were being written and profanities used, and it was very disturbing. And well, what was I able to do? I was able to bring harassment charges.
I'm a victim.
Whoops. Wrong video, but still, the victim complex is strong with this one. Is this a Nicotra thing, or do all people in this area of the country throw around harassment charges like it's confetti at the 1927 ticker tape parade for anti-Semite, Nazi sympathizer, and general piece of Charles Lindbergh? Vince has been threatening me with harassment since Baked Salmon and I first started making videos critical of his work back in May 2019. He also claimed to have me and several other YouTubers, Twitter users, and Facebook followers under FBI investigation for saying things he didn't like. He told a Canadian YouTuber she was going to be extradited to the US for making fun of him in a video after doxing her on Reddit and Twitter. And this isn't all old stuff.
Why you bringing up old shit?
Just yesterday, he threatened Regina with arrest for harassment when she shared the racist text he sent about me on New Year's Eve. He alleges that they're fake, but it doesn't look much different than the tweets he posted about on his very own account that same night. He loves to threaten with physical violence too, like here, when he is begging to meet a critic in person via text when she called him out for allegedly leaking text messages to Onision. He claims he is ready and protected. I don't think he means condoms either.
No, I always have condoms anywhere I go. A person would have to be an idiot not to, because of diseases.
It sounds more like when he threatened me with a gun if I ever confronted him in New York.
Come heavy!
This is harassment, Francis. It was relentless and uncalled for, and nobody knew how or when he would strike again. I will admit though, talking about Charles Lindbergh, he would make an excellent villain in the Nicotra franchise. I could see him now, waving his fist from the seat of the Spirit of St. Louis, screaming, "I'll get you, Nicotrolls, and your little Jewish friend too!"
I think what you're thinking about is the black and white mentality, where, for instance, let's say Johnny Depp, that time of the last decade when we were mad at Johnny Depp. Yeah. If you're not with us against Johnny Depp, then that means that you abuse women. That's the basis of pretty much where cancel culture came from.
Well, exactly. You see people signing petitions to get people off the air. Like, for example, Woody Allen, whatever he's been accused of or whatever's happened in his life, does that mean that now we have to just not watch his movies?
What the f, man?
Woody Allen had sex with and married his adopted daughter. Those aren't rumors like the ones about Daniel Schneider getting Jamie Lynn Spears pregnant, but this is confirmed. If people want to cancel him for that, I totally get it. Same thing with Kevin Spacey, Jared Fogle, Gary Glitter, Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, and more. I just can't listen to the Ignition remix without thinking that this dude was wanting to pee all over underage women.
I'm gonna give you some poo-poo. I'm gonna give you some pee-pee. I'm gonna give you some doo-doo. And wash it down with some wee-wee.
Call me crazy though, I guess.
If you don't mind. I wanted to talk about the recovery of public figures, the recovery of private people, and what advice would you give them trying to get their life back together after they've been, let's say, canceled? What would you advise them to do once all is said and done?
I was able to work with the platform where the reviews were being posted. It was an undertaking. It took a long time, but the platform saw what was real and what was not and went to work.
So it does look like Google removed the negative reviews, but I don't think they got all of the fake accounts, because out of these 34 reviews left, at least 3 of them are her brother, Vince Nicotra. Whoops! Looks like he was logged into the wrong sock accounts. Or he was mirror hacked by friendly dark web trolls again. Oh wait! Trolls 4. The darker the web, the sweeter the juice.
And I was able to figure out, to some extent, the identity of the individuals, and it was corrected.
Yeah, I don't believe her. I'm calling shenanigans on that one.
Our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
I have no problem believing Google removed some of the fake reviews, but I don't believe they shared IP address and identity information on anyone who was leaving said reviews. Online reviews are not legally binding contracts, and it does suck that people attacked her business like that. But when she makes statements alluding to the fact that she was able to identify random online trolls, it's gonna make people just want to test her more.
It's such a mean spirit because it involves a loss of sleep, a loss of livelihood, headaches, and not being able to work and service and being afraid, being really, worried. And I was able to get a harassment charge filed. They're not easy to get filed, but I was able to. And it took a while, but it does seem to have abated itself. And it would be a very good idea for that to continue.
So they had abated. You're right. I can't imagine it staying that way though. This interview came off like a petty excuse to throw shade at all of your online haters and warn anyone who dare talk about you in the future that you're liable to file harassment charges. This can't even be called an interview. This was just Onision telling the listening audience what he thought and attempting to legitimize his statements via a New Jersey towards a divorce lawyer.
I feel like your case is something to respect and appreciate, is when you're dealing with people who are public figures or who otherwise have social media power, and you yourself are a private citizen, and somebody who is a public figure or has a lot of social media power decides to take you as a private citizen and involve them because of their direct actions, where they're saying something that brings attention to you with a very toxic community that they may have. When they go after you and make it difficult for you to work at your job, for you to succeed the same way you did before, for you to basically function as a normal human being as a result of their careless statements, knowing their audience, knowing what they're capable of, knowing the potential outcome, and even saying the things they said and the way they said and so forth. This is something that the online community doesn't seem to understand, is that there's the real world and there's the online community.
The internet and real life are two different things. What says on the internet doesn't mean that's what I really think.
And, you know, with your case, I really hope that an example is made that you can't involve people who are not involved.
I mean, meanwhile, I have nothing to do with his gripes, simply just for having an association, whether it be familial association or otherwise. Suddenly now I should be banned, and here I am, not even in the digital community at this point. So
what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
There will be an example made. I'm just not sure it's the one she's looking for. This is a textbook example of how not to launch a YouTube channel, an example of how not to handle termination, and of course, an example of how to ignore and enrage the people who are told to contact you for help.
This is not helpful to anyone. It must breed a lot of dysfunction in people when they have to operate in the real world model. It was a pleasure to communicate with you. This will work itself out. I thank you.
Did you have any closing statements regarding hopefully promotion of your channel? Again, you said you wanted to hopefully talk to Cher someday. That's awesome.
I would love to speak to Cher. I just love Cher.
So is this the fun part of the channel? Where was the informative part? What was the point of any of this? All I learned was that Francis likes Woody Allen, loves Cher, and has a pretty flimsy legal case, unless there was a whole lot of relevant information that was edited out with those sloppy audio cuts.
You know what? Here's something else I learned in life. One of the things that many great people have said is be of service. Be of service.
She could be of service by speaking out against the actions she witnessed her brother do. He attacked not only Chris Hansen, myself, and others, but also alleged victims in the very case he so passionately fought for just a few months earlier. She should also clear up the news story being presented that she didn't know she was being interviewed by Onision. And also, lastly, is this true? Vince now claims he threw Sarah's laptop in the trash and Francis fished it out to send it back to her. Why would he admit to this? Be of service because Vince had private contact info for countless victims of alleged abuse of all types, and now there is a concern that he is leaking personal communications to someone he once claimed was a dangerous predator. Regina put it best when she said,
I regret ever working with Vincent. He's a shameful, pathetic little boy.
And she isn't the only one who feels that way. I only ever became involved with Vince while trying to help him when he was in way over his head with digital marketing. My reward for offering that assistance would be a digital assault, stupid taunts, and several attempts to jeopardize the safety of my family and my job with repeated doxing. How could Frances stay silent on this? This whole time she's complaining about the treatment she's endured online, while the guy who single-handedly tried to destroy an investigation is standing feet away from her. Do you know who else does that?
When I launched Be Best, I asked people to join me in my commitment to promoting values such as encouragement, kindness, compassion, and...
You serious? She didn't care that Vince was contacting my family and just let me know that people should stop talking about Vince. Not how she could be of service to me, but how I could help her. She did offer to help get Baked Sam and his channel back after it was taken down for a third time by Vince with illegal copyright strikes. Of course, he had to agree to be a watchdog and strike any video he saw that mentioned Vince's name. He naturally declined. She was acting as his legal counsel, and instead of being the voice of reason while he spun out of control, she seemingly justified and excused his horrific behavior, a pattern that's probably been there his entire life.
Private people. So what YouTube channel are people reaching out to get more education on the whole field of their rights?
Are you speaking about my YouTube channel?
And this, my friends, is how you close an interview with a bang. I can't wait to see what else comes out from this channel, and I only hope it matches the production value and excitement of this star-studded debut. So what's happened in the last week? Well, a mystery account on Twitter that has all the earmarks of a certain someone has been busy posting me since I spoke up about this travesty of an interview. I have asked Vince about it, but of course he would never admit to these things. I will just choose to believe that his phone was once again hacked, and I'll get to work on my screenplay for Trolls 5. Something Keanu Reeves. Hell, I don't know. That's it for me.
Thank you.
I know I've been kind of quiet lately, but I'm working on something pretty substantial, and it will be out soon.
Yo, I know that you want to talk to me, and just say one word. Just say one word, Onision.
Say my name.
Wes, the N-word.
He said it! He said it!
Again.
Wes, the N-word.
Goddamn right.
Your boy, WesMoast.
Special thanks to Allie the Alien on Twitter for the thumbnail drawing. You'll see more from her on my channel soon. Let me know what you think about the interview between Onision and Francis in the comments below.
If you ever been injured in an accident, call Flick. 1-800-944-FLICK.
I've got this feeling coming over me.
When they hurt me, I knew who to call.
Brian Wilson, the Texas Lawhawk! The Texas Lawhawk! Ah!
Want more Moast? Subscribe or click the video above